Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajannaranjana Yasho Yashodanandana Vrajajannaranjana Yasho Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajannaranjanaya Yashodanandana Vrajajannaranjanaya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Pavriradikacharya Ashtottara Shata Sri Srimad Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Skandviti Sanstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Pavriradikacharya Ashtottara Shata Sri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyare Shatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Chapter 10, The Pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, Text 3. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Tasyanu charitang rajan Rishibis tattvadarshibhi Shrutang hi varnitang bhuri Tvaya Sita Patirmuhu Tasyanu Charitang Rajan Rishibis Tattvadarshibhi Shrutang hi varnitang bhuri Tvaya Sita Patirmu Tasyanu Charitang Rajan Rishibis Tattvadarshibhi Shrutang hi varnitang bhuri Tvaya Sita Patirmu Tasyanu Charitam Rajan Sita Patirmu Nasyanu Charitang Rajan Sutang hi varnitang bhuri Tasya of him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ramachandra and his brothers, Anucharitam, transcendental activities, Rajan, O King, Maharaj Parikshit, Rishibhihi, by great sages, or saintly persons, Tattvadarshibihi, by persons who know the absolute truth, Shrutam, have all been heard. He, indeed, Varnitam, as they have been so nicely described. Bhuri, many, Tvaya, by you, Sitapate, of Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita, Muhu, more than often. O King Parikshit, I will just read. O King Parikshit, O King Parikshit, how is it possible? You just listen, don't talk, don't repeat. Now the fourth time. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth. Because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita, I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. Purport. Modern Rakshasas, posing as educationally advanced merely because they have doctorates, have tried to prove that Lord Ramachandra is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary person. But those who are learned and spiritually advanced will never accept such notions. They will accept the descriptions of Lord Ramachandra and his activities only as presented by Tattva Darshis, those who know the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita 4:34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead advises, Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeksyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Unless one is Tattvadarshi, in complete knowledge of the absolute truth, one cannot describe the activities of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, although there are many so-called Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, some of them are not actually authoritative. Sometimes Lord Ramachandra's activities are described in terms of one's own imaginations, speculations, or material sentiments. But the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra should not be handled as something imaginary. While describing the history of Lord Ramachandra, Shukadeva Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit, you have already heard about the activities of Lord Ramachandra. Apparently, therefore, 5,000 years ago, there were many Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities. And there are many still. But we must select only those books written by Tattva Darshis, Jnaninas Tattva Darshinaha, not the books of so-called scholars who claim knowledge only on the basis of a doctorate. This is a warning by Shukadeva Goswami. Rishibis Tatvadarshibhi. Although the Ramayana composed by Valmiki is a huge literature, the same activities are summarized here by Shukadeva Goswami in a few verses. Tasyanu charitang rajan rishibis tattvadarshibhi shrutam hi varnitam bhuri tvaya sita pater muhu. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth, because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita. I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. Mama Jnana Timirandasya Gyanandana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Prabhupada uses quite strong words describing those who are educated materially and having even titles like doctors or professors as Rakshasas. Or in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes these people as mudha. Tattvadarshi, that's the term we have in this verse, and Prabhupada later he quotes Bhagavad Gita, whereas the same ideas presented, Tattvadarshina, are those who see Tattva. And that is the important point, because you can see things in many different ways. Reality, so-called reality, if you think about it. What is reality? It's a philosophical question. Like I remember in school, we had also philosophy classes, believe it or not. And there was a teacher of philosophy. So one time, or in the beginning actually, he said, this is a table. Everybody accepts this is a table. Now the question is, what is a table? It's simple, no? It's a table. But what is it? Is it something that has 4 legs? Anything that has 4 legs is a table? No. It's made out of wood? That's not a character. It's a surface you can put things on. Is that necessarily a table? So what is the definition of a table? Now you have to think philosophically. So this is called speculation. Depending on who you ask, what is a table, or this item we call a table, somebody may look at with a microscope and he sees something very different. With your eyes you see it like this. If you are in a different body, like then you may see only very not very clear picture of what is called a table. And that's with everything. In human society we have come to some agreement to call things certain names, and in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2nd canto actually it is said this is a world of names. We give things a name, and those who study the material nature, scientists like physicists or chemists or biologists, they will analyze according to their capacity actually, and then give names and give it a category and then write a book about it. And then you get a doctor title. If you're very advanced in studying, like for example, there are people who all their life they may study flies, fruit flies, especially the way they fly. That's the flies, that's the word. And they will study exactly the wing, how it is shaped, how it is connected, how it moves. And they may spend their whole life actually being absorbed in studying this one manifestation of the material world and then write books about it, many thousands of pages, and get a title. And they are expert, they are the authority on fruit flies. And they think what they see, this is tattva, this is the truth. So of course we know they actually don't know exactly what this living entity is. They only see some external manifestation. And if you are on a different level of consciousness, you see things in a different way. So therefore, we talk about relativity. Everything is relative, depending on your, what is this, Manyate Jagat, this sutra. Everybody sees the universe according to their mental condition. This is it. You see the same reality, you ask different people, they see it in a different way. So, in the material world, the idea is that you see it this way, I see it that way, and both are valid. It's your opinion or your way of seeing, and therefore it's your truth. Everybody has his own truth. That's another speculation and idea. So therefore, tatamat tatapat. So many ideas, so many ways. Actually, as Srimad Bhagavatam says in the beginning, the absolute truth is generally seen in three features. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Tattva. That's those who know Tattva, the truth, they see things in this way. Now here we speak about Ramachandra and his activities and the way they are described. Prabhupada cites Ramayana, that there are many Ramayanas, and some of them are not actually authoritative. Why? Because the person who makes the description, who is giving an account even of the activities of Ramachandra, what to speak of his nature, they don't see things with the authoritative vision, Tattvadarshi. They see things according to their Prabhupada. There are three things: imagination, speculation, and sentiment. These three things will color our vision. And unfortunately, and that's therefore this whole purport actually goes about this subject matter, even those who claim to be spiritualists or even devotees, they may have this problem. They think, they imagine that they know the truth, whether it's Ramachandra's pastimes or Krishna Lila, Krishna's pastimes, same thing, or even Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, or anything in connection with spirit, with a spiritual realm. They imagine things. The most well-known example maybe for us as devotees, followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are the Sahaja groups in Bengal. There are many of them. There are 13 main groups, and later the acharyas have identified 56 subgroups. A lot of groups. Everybody of them has a different vision of the truth. And they are convinced what we see, that's the truth. And those who are really Tattvadarshis, in that case we know that it was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur who first of all identified the different groups and then also identified the faults, why these visions are not authorized. Very important. Because what had happened, that after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, very soon relatively speaking, after almost immediately 200 years later, all these different wrong conceptions were introduced into the sampradaya, and they became apa sampradayas, deviations. But everybody convinced we are the real devotees. And so this went so far that in the 19th century, which means 1800, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was active, that Vaishnavism was practically speaking in its darkest hour. It was regarded as a very low-class type of religion, only for, yes, low-class people. And those who were educated, they didn't want to have anything to do with it. Why? Because there were so many practices introduced that are actually materially and low-class, especially in the realm of sexual deviations. It had become a low-class sex religion. Because people, according to their imagination and material sentiments, they started to propagate so-called spiritual practices, sadhana, they call it sadhana, which is actually a deviation. So therefore Srila Bhaktisiddhanta later, he wrote a whole essay about mundane rasa, or mellows, mundane sentiments, which all appear as spiritual, and those who have no real understanding will become confused and deviated. So therefore, it's so important to follow tattvadarshis, those who have real knowledge, complete knowledge of the absolute truth. Not some imaginary idea about who is Ramachandra, who is Sita, who is Krishna, who is Radha, what are we, what is our relationship, and how all this is manifesting and being practiced. And it's very easy to become deviated, that's the point. So therefore one should be very careful and not fall into this trap, because it's a tendency. The tendency is to be very much convinced of one's own mental prowess. I know, or my conclusions. And then one invents one's, even slight deviations are dangerous, because you start in a small way, and if you don't stop it, it will just grow. The so-called snowball effect. You know what is a snowball effect? You have a small snowball. You have no snow here, so you can't. Maybe in pictures you can understand. In Switzerland, there's a lot of snow, and there are high mountains. Now, if you have one of these small snowballs, and you make it start to roll from the top of a mountain, let's say 1 or 2 or 3 kilometers, when it comes down to the end, it's not a small snowball. It's a huge avalanche of snow, a huge big thing that actually can erase a whole house and people underneath, and they die and everything. What is the point? The point is it will just grow. If you let it go, a small ball starts with a small ball, and if just goes and goes and goes, it will become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So one starts with a small wrong idea about Krishna, about Rama, about me, and as a soul, and this and that, and then it goes on and on and on. The mind does not stop. The mind is very active. And then one has suddenly a whole system of philosophy and conclusions. And if one is very so-called expert, he will present a new path of self-realization. And you let your hair grow long, get a nice beard, and have a big smile, and then you will speak about your new discovery. Or you will actually, if you're more intelligent, you'll present it as something ancient. I'm following the ancient path, and this and that. And those who are tattvadarshis, they can detect, hey, wait a second, this is not according to Shastra, this is not according to the acharyas. So one has to know, to be a knower of the truth. Therefore, in this Bhagavad Gita verse, Krishna, he says, Tadvidi pranipa, you want to be vidi, you want to understand, then there are 3 things you have to do. Pranipatina pariprashnina sevaya, not to anybody, but to tattvadarshinas. Those who know the truth, you have to approach in a humble state with, an attitude that is correct. Otherwise, forget about these other things. You can't even ask questions. Prabhupada says that. If you don't have the right attitude, you're not allowed really to ask questions, because it's just you're not serious. You get the answers, but you will not follow. So it's a waste of time. You're wasting my time and your time. So paripratena, that's the first step. Then then sevaya, not just asking questions. You have to also offer service. Yeah? So these three things together, then there will be a transmission of knowledge. Actually, what happens that Krishna will reveal knowledge in the heart. All knowledge comes finally from Krishna. Even now we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, or we can read Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., etc. But unless we receive the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will not understand. This happens, especially Prabhupada mentions here those who are so-called educated. We don't talk about just general people in university, especially those who study, for example, the scriptures. Indologists are a typical kind of persons. They know Sanskrit very well. They can even have memorized sutras and verses, and some of them, yes, they have very deep so-called knowledge about Bhagavad Gita, but they have not understand one single thing, nothing. So that's possible. You become a scholar on the mental platform, but actually in your heart you have not really understood, because Krishna, he does not reveal himself. Then what is this called? Mayaya parita jnana. You are so-called jnani, you have knowledge, but it's actually taken away by Maya. You have so-called knowledge. And that's more dangerous, because people who are not well-versed or who are innocent, they will become deceived, as we said. If you're very clever, you invent a so-called new path and you start to preach, and you will attract followers because they don't know. They will see you as quoting Sanskrit and being learned, and they will become very respectful, and they may follow the wrong path. So therefore, Tattvadarshi, one has to receive knowledge from those who have also received the knowledge from other Tattvadarshis. That is the Guru Parampara. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyashasmi tattvataha. How to receive knowledge in truth about Krishna. That's when one follows the right path in the Guru Parampara system and developing bhakti. Otherwise, there are so many different versions, for example, of Ramayana or Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada, when he wrote the introduction, he said there are hundreds of translations and versions of Bhagavad Gita, but in the last 100 or 150 years, but not one single person has become a devotee. So that's another proof that yes, you may have the verses, you may have the so-called translations, but unless a Tattvadarshi transmits the knowledge and you receive the mercy of the Lord, then even though you may read Ramayana or Bhagavad Gita, one will not understand really what it's all about, and one will not become enlightened. So these are some of the points mentioned here. So we have some time if we want to comment something or ask some questions. I think these just very simple, in one sense, a very simple concept that is presented here, that one has to be qualified to see things in truth, and that's not possible by mundane qualification, where you have to actually, bhakti has to be developed in the genuine process, and then by the mercy of Krishna you will understand things, otherwise will not be able to understand. I mean, this is like the bottom line. I like the conclusion. There's this verse by Brahma. What is it? Atapi tedeva padambuja dvaya. Veshanogrihita Lesha Grihita Evahi Janati Tattvam Bhagavatma Himno Nachanya Ekopi Chirang Vichinvan. So this here Brahma speaks and he says that this Chanya Eko, anybody who is like Chirang for a very long time, he may study the scripture. But unless Prasada Lesha no Grihita Evahi, one receives just a little bit of mercy of the lotus feet of the Lord, Janati Tattvan, that you will not be able to actually understand what is it all about. Or Premanjana Chorita Bhakti Vilochanena, unless the eyes, there is some ingredient of bhakti, then you will not be able to see. Although you see, you don't see. Apashana pashyati, that's another thing. Even in ordinary affairs, one may see, but one may not see in the sense you don't understand. You're seeing things, but you don't really understand. Therefore, what is a table? Well, it's a thing with 4 legs and a surface. That's a table. But somebody will get into the and then show you that not anything that has 4 legs and a surface, that's not the definition. So you see, but you don't see. You don't see really what is the table. That it's earth, water, fire, air. Okay. So there's different ways to see anyway. So to see transcendental vision, there has to be a certain qualification, and that is actually bhakti. So.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. This is very nice purport Prabhupada has given. Very deep. Purport is very deep. And Prabhupada is, in the beginning of purport, writing about the doctorate they are getting. So many people are getting doctorate degree, PhD. And they are researching about this Ramayana. And they can come to the conclusion that Lord Ramchandra is an ordinary human being. So this is just like Dr. Frog.
Yeah.
Dr. Frog makes research about the Pacific Ocean, and he comes to the conclusion that Pacific Ocean is just 2 times this well. This is also one well. Yes, maybe 2 times. So Lord Ramchandra is ordinary human being? No, not ordinary human being. He has some special qualities, but he is ordinary. But he is human being, extraordinary. Maybe some Mahapurusha, but great man, but not Supreme Personality of Godhead.
It's the same with Krishna, Prabhupada says. They may think, oh yes, an extraordinary personality, but then they see these other pastimes and think, oh, what is this? Completely against Dharma. At least in the case of Ramachandra, in general, actually, I think in India, Ramachandra is preferred because, Eka Patni, he has 1 wife, and he's an ideal king, Raj Ram. So there's this kind of vision. But Krishna, he's a very strange character. Others' wives and dancing in the night and stealing, and he does things that are against Dharma. So that's even more difficult to understand. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they will think he's a madman. He was crazy, some wind disease. He had a disease. The airs in the body became disturbed, and therefore he had all these, ecstasies and falling down, and all these things are described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So with this kind of vision, you don't understand anything. Actually, it's very difficult, that's true. It's difficult to understand. It's not easy. One has to receive the mercy of the Lord and the devotees to be able to understand. Just like when this pastime with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, actually that's very interesting. I think it's, Madhya Leela 6, and then Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma, they were arguing. Actually later it were the disciples of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya who were arguing with Gopinath Acharya about whether Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead or not. And they were asking, what is the proof? They were actually really arguing about that. So let's see whether we can find this. This is very interesting. It's just a few verses. Madhya Lila 6 and maybe 100 something. Let's see. Oh. Yeah, he's Gopinath. I mean, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. What happened is that he proposed to initiate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a higher order of sannyas. He said that I could bring him into a first-class sampradaya by performing the process, the initiation actually again. So then Gopinath Acharya, he was very unhappy. And he said, you don't know the greatness of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are found in him to the highest degree. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is celebrated as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are ignorant in this connection find the conclusion of knowledgeable men very difficult to understand. That's the same point. Those who are ignorant, if the Tattvadarshis explain, they don't understand, they don't accept. And then the disciples of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, they started to argue. They say, by what evidence do you conclude that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord? So Gopinath Acharya says, the statements of authorized acharyas who understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are proof. Same point. Tattvadarshis, those who are authorized acharyas, who are seers of the truth, that's what they say. That is what counts. And then the disciples, they continue to argue. They say, we derive knowledge of the absolute truth by logical hypothesis, mental speculation. That's our process. And then Gopinath Acharya says, one cannot attain real knowledge of the Supreme Lord by such logical hypothesis and argument. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by His mercy, not by guesswork or hypothesis. If one receives but a tiny bit of the Lord's favor by dint of devotional service, he can understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he quotes this same verse, Atapi Titeva Badam Mujam Dvaya. And then he again speaks directly to Sarvabhauma and he says, you are a great scholar and a teacher of many disciples. Indeed, there's no other scholar like you on earth. Imagine. I mean, Indeed, nonetheless, because you are bereft of even a pinch of the Lord's mercy, you cannot understand Him even though He is present in your home. Same thing when Krishna was present. How many could really understand that He is the Supreme Lord? The 5 Pandavas? And a few others, and that's it. All the rest, they had this idea, a great warrior, a great personality. And some even thought, well, no, he's like a crow. Now he continues to say, it is not your fault, it is the verdict of the scripture. You cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by scholarship. Now, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he still is not convinced. He says, my dear Gopinath Acharya, please speak with great care. What is the proof that you have received the mercy of the Lord? Good question, huh? Now he says, Gopinath Acharya, he replies, knowledge of the summum bonum, the absolute truth, is evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. You have seen the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his absorption in an ecstatic mood. Despite directly perceiving the symptoms of the Supreme Lord in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you cannot understand Him. This is commonly called illusion. Anyway, so the point we made is this. Unless you actually receive the Lord's mercy, you may have Him in front of you and you may not be able to understand. Like people come to the temple And yes, depending also, depending on your consciousness, you see something different. You will see the deity, but you may actually see an order supplier. You see, yes, this is Thakurji, higher personality, maybe God, yes, but his main function is I will come and offer my prayers and give something, and I will get 10 times in return, or more. Now, I have direct experience of this. Not before I came this time to India. We had, what was it, some festival. And so, actually what is meant from India, what can we say? It's like that. Western people even don't think like that. The man he was living in Spain, so he's been living for many years. So he gave a nice donation to patronize the Prasadam Sunday feast. Something like 100 euros, which is like 10,000, 8,000 rupees. Anyway, so I went to him after the program and I said, thank you very much for your generous donation. And he said, yeah, but I give and he'll give me back 10 times more. So he said, yes, of course. But I'm not just giving you here, for prasadam. I give this with a certain idea. I know I will get 10 times back, so there's no loss. It's a good business. I invest 1, I get back 10. So, this is the mentality. So that mentality, you cannot really understand that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm His eternal servant, and there's a specific relationship. It's just an order supplier. He's providing, and if I have the right attitude, then He'll give more. It's better than nothing, but that's not really what the devotee, how he should think. Prabhupada many times said, don't treat or think of Krishna as your order supplier. Oh yes, I need this, I want this, can please. And in this, no, what Krishna wants, we should try to find out. Anyway, so 5 more minutes we have. Yes.
Haribol.
Here.
Thank you, Maharaj. So nice, wonderful class. So Prabhupada also in preface says that is misguided teaching the great offender to Krishna, and my attempt will success if you will get one pure devotee by reading the Bhagavad Gita. In the preface. So in your
I don't understand. Acoustically, it's difficult to understand. Somebody can.
Hare Krishna. In Prabhupada, you gave a nice class for the mood of the Prabhupada and the heart of the Krishna. In preface, Prabhupada also written that my attempt will be successful if you'll get pure devotee. So regarding the topic, I have one question. How this innocent heart will save from being victimized? If you get some misdirected teachings and guideline, the innocent heart may be victimized in due course of bhakti. So how the innocent heart will be saved in regarding your topic?
How an innocent heart can be saved from being deceived? If the innocent heart is sincere, Krishna will guide that person to the right place. You know what I mean? That's how we should see it. Generally, Krishna will respond to our desires. So if we are not completely sincere, then it may be that we become cheated. I mean, it's a little delicate. Nevertheless, Prabhupada, he also said that we have to preach, because otherwise innocent people easily become misguided by so-called scholars and all this. So these both things are there. On one hand, depending on your sincerity, Krishna will guide you. On the other hand, we also have to nirvishesha shunyavadi, paschatya deshatarine, preach against, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was also very strongly on this point, preaching against those who give so-called knowledge, who misguide innocent people. So for oneself, if one is sincere, then there's not much possibility to be misguided. Otherwise, it's always possible, depending who you listen to. It's very, yes, it's in a certain way, it's because everything is there, especially nowadays, for example, practically everybody has access on the internet to any kind of information. So it really depends on you. What kind of information do I access? Right, isn't it? And if you listen long enough to wrong so-called knowledge, you become confused. Therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was warning that Mayavadi Bhashya na shunile. Don't listen. At that time, that was the main danger. Mayavadi philosophy being propagated by different persons. No television, no movies, no internet, just talk. Somebody comes to the village, sits down, and people gather around, and they will start to speak. But if it's wrong philosophy, the advice is don't go and listen, because sarvanash, everything can be lost, can be destroyed just by listening to the wrong kind of information. And it's very strong advice, and one may wonder, but I am a devotee, I am convinced about, Krishna and Bhakti and the philosophy. I can listen to Mayavadi philosophy, no problem, and it will not affect me. One may think. But the warning is, don't think like that. It's so subtle, then, your mind suddenly starts to change, becomes bewildered. And that's true to anything. Let's say even materialistic proposals or philosophies. Then you start to think, what am I doing? Chanting this Hare Krishna and living in this is the real thing, is material life with all the different possibilities that are now available in the 21st century. We are advancing in so many ways. This is real thing. This is reality. This is just religious madness. Shaving heads and giving up everything and chanting Hare Krishna and begging practically in the street. No, go to the latest school of technology and get a big title and then work and get lots of money and a Toyota car and this and that, and that's life. So you may become bewildered. If you listen long enough and you see so-called successful people being promoted in television and in the media as that's where everybody should become like that, then you may become actually bewildered. So sangha, asat sangha tyaga, because everything can be lost by wrong kind of sangha, which starts with hearing. So how to avoid? Well, you listen to Tattvadarshis, don't listen to the wrong source, isn't it? So I think I'm over time.
हरे कृष्णा, एक माता जी हैं यूक्रेन से, डायनामोका नाम की माता जी हैं, यहाँ दिल्ली में किसी अस्पताल में भर्ती हैं और हेपेटाइटिस नाम की जो बीमारी है उससे उनकी स्थिति बहुत गंभीर है। तो भक्त लोग जो है उनके लिए प्रार्थना करें, उनके जीवन की रक्षा के लिए प्रार्थना करें। The devotees should pray for one Mataji, Dynamoko, from Ukraine. She is admitted in hospital in Delhi and she is suffering and very serious, so devotees are requested to pray for her.
Okay, so we do that.
Hare Krishna. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
हरे कृष्ण।